Happening now, the state Senate is holding the final session of the legislature's two-year term. Lawmakers are expected to pass a ban on high school transgender athletes competing on girls' teams. Governor Evers says he would veto that bill if it passes. Meantime, a bipartisan effort to allow absentee ballots to be processed earlier than currently allowed appears to have no chance of passing the chamber. The Senate is also expected to fire two of the governor's appointees to the UW Board of Regents in an ongoing fight over diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts.